Do you remember? It was a few streams ago. I went over a Coinbase data breach where scammers, hackers, whatever you want to call them, were literally bribing Coinbase workers and giving them like a cut of the pie to get access to crypto information. I also went over several pretty depressing articles where people who got access to crypto account holder information through some of these breaches would then proceed to target the most rich ones and kidnap them and torture them to the point of removing fingers. That was real. We covered a few instances in France, for example. I believe there was an instance in Germany that we covered. This is real. This is a real thing that happens. And these are the consequences of, well, in part, everybody has a price, right? So what are you going to do? How exactly are you going to secure yourself from an employee who is willing to accept money in exchange for an unethical thing? However, removing that scenario, there is still the scenario of tons of data, gigabytes of data being exposed because of non-secure S3 buckets, APIs being insecure, VPN systems not having the right security, they run on default passwords or whatever. All of this stuff all has an impact, and this data gets out there and then people use it to do things that you probably don't want them to be doing. Coinbase data breach will lead to people dying. 404ing. I got to be careful. TechCrunch founder says, Michael Arrington argued that executives should be jailed if they don't adequately protect sensitive user data. The claim comes amid a wave of kidnapping attempts targeting high net worth crypto holders. Former Coinbase CTO Balaji Srinivasan argued that the fault lies with state-mandated KYC data collection. People will absolutely get hurt. Absolutely they will get hurt. Not only have they become hurt, but they will continue to get hurt. And yes, some people will lose their lives. Now, KYC is a know your customer type of regulation, or like, and maybe not regulation, but it's a process. Yeah, I mean, it says it right there. The words are right in front of me. That's why they came to mind, because I read this already. It's a process that requires users to confirm their identity to a platform. So the argument is, if you're going to do this, if you're going to do a know your customer so you can understand who's on here, but you don't adequately protect your customer information, you should get prison time. I'm not entirely sure that I disagree, to be honest with you. I can't really think of a reason why that shouldn't be the case. I do believe that we need to put more pressure on companies to be very, very careful about the data that they store and have about customers. Absolutely, I do. And there should be consequences to not doing this. The human cost denominated in misery is much larger than the $400 million or so they think it will actually cost the company to reimburse people. Now, this is where the argument falls flat. It falls on deaf ears, because you're talking about a human cost, and a lot of companies don't care about the human cost. What you have to do is tailor the message a little bit differently. What is the cost to you if regulations existed so that you had to pay something far more than the cost of securing it? And what is the cost to you if people think that you have an insecure platform and they don't come to you as a result? They're no longer your customers. There is a way to tailor this message to make companies care about it, because there is a direct cost loss that you can make a case for. This in particular is more of a human appeal, which I think most of us can agree with, that there is a human cost. That's part of the reason why I make particular claims that I do about programmers having kind of like a duty, a responsibility. It would be the same thing as like if you saw somebody who was choking on some food, most of us would feel a sense of duty to go over there and help them and try and save their lives. In a similar principled sense, my argument is that we as programmers have a lot of responsibility because our software runs on a lot of different things and holds a lot of sensitive information. So from the human element, yes. But when you're talking to a business, you can't really do that, right? A business doesn't really care about the human element. However, there's still a good argument that satisfies both. It's not this one. So then it talks about the actual Coinbase stuff. We've already gone over it on a previous Daily Tech News stream, and the types of information that were taken, how they bribed essentially some of the employees at Coinbase, what happened with the kidnapping attempts. So David Balland, we went over this story. There was a mutilation of his hand as part of the ransom demands. There was an assault on Amaranth. I'm sure some of you have heard, because some of you I know are degenerate scumbags, and she was apparently invaded in her home, and they ordered her to transfer Bitcoin. Let's not get too much into that. We covered the French stories. We've covered all this, so we know that this is happening. These are, again, second, third, fourth order effects from something as simple as an S3 bucket was left out in the open. Because what people can do is they take this kind of information and they tailor their attacks to people that they have information on. That's what happens. And we don't think about the consequences of our own code when we're just sitting back and going, we're just writing a stupid little, e-commerce site or whatever it is. But there are definitely serious consequences to this stuff. And we have to be more careful, and we're not. Instead, what we're doing is we're outsourcing our responsibilities to a package or library that says that they've solved the problem for us, and all you have to do is install it, and we don't consider all of the risks that come associated with that, especially when you have managers and executives and influencers and colleagues who all push for operating this way, and they look at you like you're some kind of weirdo if you don't.